Moving on to kale now. Kale has become extremely popular in America since a large listeria outbreak in spinach that happened, I don't even know how long ago, 8 to 10 years ago, something like that. So there was a listeria outbreak. Several people died from that. It was linked to spinach, and it gave spinach a horrible name. People did not want to eat spinach. So what did the National Produce Marketing Association do? They turned people on to kale and said, kale is super healthy. Forget about spinach, go try some kale. Everybody get on this kale kick. And that's what happened, okay? So spinach has still not come back like it was since that listeria outbreak. I want to say 8 out of 10 farms in the vast region where it happened went out of business. Nobody was growing spinach anymore, and people switched. They switched to kale crops. So kale is huge here now. There's kale smoothie crazes for all the health nuts out there. No one seems to like the taste of kale. Very few people that I talk to actually say, oh, I love the taste of kale. Everybody kind of winces and says, yeah, but it's good for me. And that kind of goes to show you what good marketing can do. People tell you it's good for you. Whether you like it or not, the healthy people are going to try it. So go ride the wave and grow some kale because it is in high demand right now. Growth rate and habit are very similar to Swiss chard. And there's a high selling price for quality product. A lot of the product out there is field-grown product that's grown in vast quantities, and a lot of people juicing want that. They want cheap kale because it's grown in a large quantity. But you've got something those cheap guys don't, and that is pesticide-free. You go pesticide-free, you can explain to all those healthy people that even if they're buying organic field-grown kale, it's getting sprayed down with Bacillus thuringiensis, it's getting sprayed down with maybe 100 other chemical pesticides that are legal for organic production, okay? And win them over. Let them know you've got nothing on your product. If you really want to be healthy, don't go through all of what you're doing and all that just to ingest concentrated pesticides in a kale smoothie, okay? Don't do that. Get the good stuff that you're producing. That's how you win customers over, and you've got to be able to have those conversations and take on field-grown products and other products and explain, hey, I understand you want that, but let me show you why this is a better decision and a better product. If they don't want it, by all means, let them go on their way. But that's part of selling yourself, selling your product, and letting people know what you're all about. You're beyond what they can get at these grocery stores. And that's why they want to come and see you every week at a market, or buy from you through a produce club, or buy from a restaurant and eat at a restaurant that you're selling to. These are all big winning points that make your brand worth more money and make your product worth more money. High selling price for quality product, said that. And it's fairly easy to care for. So kale, big kale killer is caterpillars. So you screen the thing up and your kale problems really go down. Then you're on to aphids, which kind of set in. That's a secondary problem. I would say that if you grow kale crops, you'll probably see some aphids, but we already talked about how to take care of aphids with beneficial insects without using pesticides at all. And we don't, again, never use pesticides on this farm, and we grow a lot of kale here. We do it all pesticide free. So firsthand, I'm not just reading books and trying to relay information. I can tell you 100% positivity because I've done this. So there's many varieties on the market out there. Select something that will set you apart from your competition, and be ready to educate your health-conscious consumer of the nutritional benefits of your product. So know the difference between your red Russian kale and your neighbor's curly leafed kale that was field grown and sprayed with pesticides. Know the difference. Be ready to combat that, okay? It's not trash talking when you're telling the truth, okay? You're not trying to make any enemies where you're selling. What you're trying to do is really tell people, look, this is what we're doing different. This is why this is so awesome, and you need to try our product. And all they have to do is try it once, and they're going to be hooked. And not only because of how great your product is, but also because of the story behind it and the connection that they made with you while you're explaining this. That all comes into making this business work. Select something that will set you apart. Okay, we said that. Be ready to educate. We said that. Premium product always wins. I've said that a lot of times through this. I'll always say that. I can go into any marketplace in Florida, set up a stable, and I will be better than anybody else there. We go to a lot of, and that's not just an ego thing, that's because we take pride in what we put out there. It's not anything that grows gets put on the table. If it doesn't look like it's to my quality standards, I feed it to my goats, or it goes into a compost bin if they don't like it. Okay, so there's quality standards there, and what that does is it brings premium prices. All right, so you bring premium product, you're always going to win. You're always going to be the guy there that people want to go to, and that's why we sell out almost every week we go to a farmer's market. We sell out with what we've got. Don't go in with sub-premium product, because then you're competing with field-grown guys producing it for cheaper, and it might look just as good as what you've got. That's really hard to make that sale. Okay, so these are varieties grown at Chatterson Farms. Now, I've grown a lot of varieties, but these are really the varieties we consistently grow that our consumers prefer. And the first is Tuscan kale. It's also called Toscano kale, Dino kale. I've heard it called black kale. There's a lot of names for this stuff, but that's a really, really good, probably the least bitter type of kale out there, and people really love it. We also grow White Russian, which is a very delicate, flat, broad-leafed kale. We grow Winter Boar, Red Russian kale. I really don't grow much curly leaf, but I've got a couple people that like it, so I'll throw a few plants in the end of the mix to suffice them. But that's the lowest on the whole list is curly leaf. And also because that's the cheap type of kale that you see in grocery stores that you're going to see everywhere else. The rest of these really set you apart, and it's not something that's readily available at every supermarket. Okay, here's a beautiful picture of the Dino kale, okay, or our Toscano kale. And you can see it looks real bumpy. It's got that dark kind of weird glossy green skin. Kind of looks like dinosaur skin, so that's where it gets that name. But this is delicious kale. And here's some of our White Russian kale. You can see it's a nice long, these are really fragile leaves, so you can actually just snap them off with your finger when it's time to harvest. And they go out and they make nice, large, broad leaves that are really thin and delicate and delicious, delicious flavor. Okay, and here's a little bit of the Winter Boar kale. Move on to spinach, okay? Spinach is highly nutritious. It's a favorite for its high iron content and taste. Local pesticide-free spinach is always in demand, but it prefers cooler temperatures, okay? And most varieties will not perform in warmer climates. Like me down here in Florida, I do not grow spinach, okay? That's just one of those crops. We grow other varieties that fill that niche, but I don't grow your standard spinach that you get bagged up at a grocery store. And that's because I'm in Florida. It's just not made to grow here. I could grow it a couple months a year, and then as soon as it gets a little warmer, we have problems. And one of our big issues in Florida is we're dealing with climate change here right now. So we track temperatures, and over the last 15 years, we are seeing our winters disappear, where we used to get maybe 14 to 20 days of frost through a wintertime. Now that's not much at all, but for Florida, that's a good amount of frost. Sometimes it would even go over 40 days. For the last 3 years, we've been getting about 1 to 2 days of frost for the entire year, and some areas in Florida don't get any frost. So I'm in a little colder nook. But a lot of places get zero frost. So what that does is it makes it, one, very hard for pest control, because we don't have anything to kill these pests off during the wintertime. A hard freeze, a frost, that does a lot to set back the insect population for the entire next upcoming year. But the last couple years, it's been extremely hard, and we've had to work even harder to produce crops the way we want to. That's because the bugs aren't dying. It's getting warmer, and if this continues to happen, again, we're going to look more like a subtropical island environment than we have right now. So that's something to think about, you know, and again, related to spinach, that makes it very difficult. It's a cool weather crop. Well, we've lost most of our cool weather for the year. So because of that, we grow tatsoi, which is an Asian type of spinach that does a great replacement at the marketplace, and we just call it tatsoi spinach. People see the leaves, it looks exactly like spinach, they buy it, they use it in their spinach recipes. We also grow Malabar spinach, which is made, it was grown in Malabar, which is an island, a subtropical island, and it's made to grow in warmer environments. But it grows on a vine, and the leaves are a little bit different. Personally, me and my little brother like this better than regular spinach. We think the taste is out of this world. There's a little bit more water to it. So it's a little bit more of a mushy leaf than your standard spinach leaf, but it's delicious. We'll pick them off the plants and eat them raw all day while working in the greenhouse. It's a really good variety. So if you haven't tried that and you're in a warmer climate, definitely give it a try. Just make sure you have some trellis netting hung up because it is a vining plant. And you can read more about all these varieties more than what I'm telling you, of course, on this video. So again, down here in warm climates, try vining subtropical variety called Malabar spinach. But here's some of the other spinaches for cool weather. Many of my climates in cool weather, we get them going with Corvair, maybe Flamingo does outstanding. If I'm running a chiller on the system and I get the temperature down into the low 70s, then we do the same thing. I can do that here in Florida without a problem. But Corvair, Emperor, Flamingo, also long-standing Bloomsdale, which is kind of a longer, non-bolting variety. And the warm weather varieties are Malabar spinach, there's red vein Malabar spinach, and the tatsoi Asian spinach that I mentioned. There's also some other varieties out there, so keep your eyes out. Get on Google, do research. There are other plants that I don't mention in here because there's millions of them, guys. But do some research, talk to local farmers, and get an idea of what's being grown in your area, and that will help you with selection of what to grow. Okay, so here's some of your standard spinach. This would be, this is actually the Corvair spinach. All right, so nice, small, rounded leaf, snipped right at the stem, okay? When we go into Malabar spinach, this picture is just a little blurry, but you can see this has a red vine going vertically. This is your red vein Malabar, and it has more of a heart-shaped leaf. This one's a little more oval. As they get larger, they get heart-shaped. So it doesn't have the exact shape of your standard spinach leaf, but it's close, and the taste is real close. Okay, and you can see this is your Malabar spinach, the standard green Malabar. When it's cut up, it looks a whole lot like normal spinach. So it's definitely a substitute that people can use in their diet, and explain, hey, this is something good you don't normally see. It's good to have different things like that in your diet. So for all your healthy, health-conscious people out there, you're offering something different. If they want the normal spinach, send them to the grocery store. If they want something unique that they can get into their diet that's going to add other health aspects, give them some Malabar spinach, some tatsoi, something that they don't see every day. As far as herbs, let's move over to the herb selection here. There's a wide variety to choose from, okay? You go through an herb catalog, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of herbs. Okay, and we haven't tried an herb that didn't grow well in aquaponics. Now I've grown maybe 100 different types of herbs, but all the way up to things like echinacea, again, turmeric, galangal, ginger. If you go to chives, basil, any of those main herbs you can think of, we do not have a problem with that, okay? The main thing is if it's, say, a tuber, something like echinacea, that you're going to harvest the root, well, we don't really want to grow that in a deep water culture system. We want to grow it in some type of media. It goes right back to your tuber crops like potatoes or something like that, okay? They are a high selling price for herbs, okay, because they don't have a long shelf life. They need to be used fresh. They're valued as a fresh product, and you get a high return on your investment. They have a short shelf life. Small to medium-sized markets pay a premium for fresh, fragrant herbs, and that's especially chefs, okay? They want something fresh and local. They don't want to order in herbs in a cellophane package that have been on the truck for a week. Excess products can be made into a value-added product such as dry herbs or, say, pesto if you're growing basil. So this comes into the plan. You may want to plan in a processing facility. If you're going to grow a lot of herbs, plan in to have some solar herb drying boxes, some different ways to process this so you don't have waste. You turn that waste into more money in the long run, okay? And this all comes into business planning because there's so many different things we can do with this. They're very easy to propagate from cuttings. So we can just, once you have some going, we can take cuttings, root them, and expand your herb area. It's very easy to do. It brings biodiversity to the growing area. So if we have a bunch of lettuce and say squash and cucumbers and let's say a whole menagerie of plants growing within the same environment, it's nice to actually get herbs in there too. These can be antagonistic to some of these bad bugs coming in and help ward them off simply because they don't like the smell of the herbs around. All right, so it's nice, it adds biodiversity. And again, the more products that you have, the more attractive you are to people coming in. Because if you get somebody that comes in for some basil, they might reach over and buy some tomatoes from you as well. And it's all about getting the people into your stall or, again, a restaurant into buying from you. A lot easier to buy everything from you than to buy one product from you. Most restaurants don't want to buy just one product. They want to get the majority of their stuff from one place. So it's consistent and they don't have to invoice 20 different people for 20 different products. You've got enough going on to actually run the restaurant. Okay, herbs, low risk crop. Just like our leafy greens, they're not a long-term crop. So that's a lot lower risk for us. The integrated pest management program is fairly simple for a dedicated herb greenhouse. A lot of the pests we're dealing with are thrips and aphids. They're your soft-bodied insects. So it's fairly easy to keep our wasps, ladybugs, and other predatory mites in there in sufficient quantities so we don't have any problems and we can produce all of these pesticide-free, which is huge, huge, huge. Okay, and lastly, herbs have been proven by Dr. Wilson Leonard to grow as good as hydroponic counterparts in his Tasman Bay herb trials. So Dr. Wilson Leonard, a friend of mine, great guy, was part of his research was at the Tasman Bay Herb Company in New Zealand. And he carried out some side-by-side trials where he grew herbs using a standard hydroponic solution and using an aquaponic effluent solution. Okay, side by side, same environment, and gathered the growing results. And though a few of the varieties grew a little bit better in hydroponics, just as many varieties grew a little bit better in the aquaponics. So as a whole, we can say that we were able to match hydroponic production and in several cases exceed that. And that's really good to know because hydroponic production is considered the best, the number one, the fastest standard to grow plants. So if we can match or exceed that, we know we're doing something state of the art. We know this is something worth pursuing. So here's some varieties grown throughout the year at Chatterson Farms. We do Genovese, lemon, and lime basil. We also sometimes do Thai basil if we have a want from that from our consumers. We do flat leaf Italian parsley. That outsells, I'd say, personally 10 to 1 to curly leaf parsley. So you can grow curly leaf parsley, but for my experience and for my customers' experience who also grow with aquaponics, flat leaf Italian parsley highly outsells curly leaf Italian parsley, so that's what you want to grow. We also grow pineapple sage, which has an edible flower that it shoots out when it starts to flower, and it's very delicious in salads. It tastes like an apple, which there's a lot of edible flowers out there, and I hate to tell you, but most of them taste like flowers, okay? They can be eaten, but it tastes like, just like they smell, flowers and pollen. These flowers do not. These flowers taste like apples or pears, or it's a wild taste that actually tastes like a hint of a fruit, and they're delicious. And you'll see a picture of these in a minute. A big favorite around here. We grow common sage. A lot of people like to buy common sage from us. It grows very large leaves in aquaponics. We do cilantro. Now, if you let cilantro go to seed, that's coriander, the coriander seed. Okay, it's the same plant. It's called two different things at two different life stages. So if you didn't know that, now you know that. We grow culantro, which is a kind of a spiky, broad-leafed cilantro substitute. It grows real good. And we have a large Spanish population around where I'm at in Florida. Again, all of Florida is pretty much a large Spanish population. We have Spanish billboards, large influence here. So people like cilantro. They like things that they naturally cook with in Spanish cuisine. So we grow to cater to that market. We grow mint, a large leaf Italian mint. You can grow spearmint, chocolate mint, orange mint, yellow mint. There's probably 100 types of mint out there. They all have subtle differences, but I like the large leaf Italian mint. Grow oregano. We grow sweet marjoram, grow dill, large leaf dill, fennel. Fennel grows beautiful. You can get fennel bulbs that are this big, huge fennel bulbs that grows great in aquaponics. And chives. Chives are the kind of crop that you can almost not kill in an aquaponics system. And they will always have extremely healthy root system. Here at Chatterson Farms, we've got some chives out there that have been here for 3 years. The same patch. We can trim from them every single week. And you can trim a whole huge head of chives right off at the base of that 2-inch cup. And within 2 weeks, it will have regrown and you can trim that again. And it will just keep going. Eventually, they widen so much at the base that you need to harvest some of them out and replant smaller plantings to allow them to keep growing. But again, you can grow these pretty much forever. They really love an aquaponic environment. Okay, and here's some beautiful Genovese basil. So Genovese basil is your typical Italian basil. It's what they make pesto out of, what you see in most Italian dishes. There are many, many types of basil. Thai basil has a licorice taste to it, the anise taste. And there are subtle different taste differences. Lemon basil tastes like a hint of lemon. Lime basil has a hint of lime. Get out there, explore what's out there, but again, talk to your chefs, let them know you can grow all of these, see what they prefer. Here's some red-leafed basil. I believe this may be red Reuben variety or red opal, but you can see large, dark red variety of basil. It looks a lot like the Genovese, but this does have a very slight hint of the anise flavor. I hate that flavor personally. You couldn't pay me to eat it, but I will grow it for people all day. Here's a pineapple sage plant. I didn't have a picture of pineapple sage in my aquaponics system. I did, but it's somewhere in the 100,000 pictures that I've got, and I just couldn't locate it. And it was taking too long, so I just fetched this off the internet. But this is what it looks like when it's just growing in the vegetative stage, okay? And even the leaves have a beautiful apple smell. It's really great if you're cooking with pork or with lamb or chicken. Really, really great in dishes. It's even great as a dried herb. And if you haven't tried it, you got to try this. This is on my Ryan recommends go out and buy this list, because it's something before I really got into producing. I didn't buy this. I had never experienced this either or come across it, but I wish I had, because it really does a lot for a lot of dishes. Okay, and here's the flower stalk that it sends out. And it will send long flower stalks, and these will just come out of, you can see every one of these is a flower that's going to open. But at this stage, when you see the anthers sticking out, you're going to pluck the flower off, and you can actually eat it with those on, or you can pull that right out of the center, and then you put that in a salad dish or any dish you'd like. You can imagine a dark green, beautiful salad with different ingredients, and then sprinkled with these electric red leaves or flowers on top of that salad. It looks beautiful. This is something that my restaurants love. This is something that people love because the flower actually tastes like something. And you can give these out as free samples, let people try it. It's something fun, it's something kids like. But it's something different. And again, it's getting people talking about you, talking about what you've got, and they're gonna buy other stuff too. Here's some mint, okay? So this is just some large leaf Italian mint. Here's some chives, and you can see beautiful white roots will grow in a aquaponic environment, and they will get to where they've expanded so much, you have to harvest them, split them, replant, and the roots will grow back in, and it'll allow them to keep expanding. Okay, here's some cilantro. We've got some fern leaf dill. Again, dill, a lot of people, if you've got Greek restaurants, things like that around you, they use a lot of dill. And it's really hard to get good fresh dill in a lot of parts of the country. So this is a great type of herb to grow. Our flat leaf parsley here. We've got some broadleaf sage. So I think it's also called common sage, but a lot of people use this in cooking. A lot of restaurants use it. Okay, and then as a conclusion, leafy green and herb production can definitely be a valuable addition to your aquaponic farm, okay? These are high dollar crops. They're not 50-cent crops. They're high dollar crops. So something like basil, go to a grocery store, check out how much it costs. You know, you're selling it for a large amount. Low risk crops, and they're recommended for beginners. So if you're starting out, these don't have a lot of small deficiencies that are going to pop up and have you killing yourself to figure out what's going wrong with your crop. They're very easy to grow. Follow the correct amount of feed, follow the pH range that we're talking about, and keep the iron where we're talking about. These plants are going to grow for you. It's really easy, and I would suggest that to start off. Don't start off with the hardest thing out there and get a sore, a sore taste in your mouth for it. It took me a long time to get here. You guys are going to get really sped up, but it's still you got to get familiar with this stuff. You got to get familiar with the growth habits of all these different types of plants. Make sure you have a market for the varieties you grow. That's big. I've seen a lot of people that grow something like watercress, and they'll grow it on a large scale because it grows really good, it grows really fast, and in a commercial marketplace it has a high value. But they might not be selling into a commercial marketplace. So they load up, they grow all this watercress, and nobody wants it. They can't sell it, they have to throw it away. Make sure that you're growing what people are going to want to buy. 8-inch spacing for 95% of the plants we grow. I've mentioned that before, okay? Keep your iron levels between 2 to 3 parts per million. A lot of the other literature you see on the internet will tell you between 1 to 2 parts per million, but there are many varieties of herbs and vegetables that will show iron deficiencies within 1 to 2 parts per million range. So keep it above that. Keep it in the 2 to 3 parts per million range, and you eliminate that problem, okay? Doesn't harm the fish, doesn't do anything, off to your vegetables. Feeding ratios are critical, and they're determined by the initial system design. We've talked about that. You figure out what type of vegetables you want to grow. You look at our plant factor chart, you add up the feed amount. You can associate that back to how many fish you're going to be able to grow and plan out the fish side. If we're coming at it from the opposite side of the spectrum and we know how many fish we've got, well, we know how much food they're going to be eating. We associate that back to the plant factors, and then that tells us how many square feet of crop that we can grow, and we design out the plant area based off that. So whichever side of the spectrum you're coming in from, we can design it using the specific formulas that we've come up with. All right, and with that, I'll end this session. If you got any other questions about leafy greens, herbs, by all means, email me at ryan@collegeofaquaponics.com. I'll be happy to answer those for you. But be confident, these are your easy set of vegetables. These are the things that they can make you a lot of money, and that's why you see a lot of people start out and focus on leafy greens and these crops. But the other crops that I've mentioned, the fruiting crops, the tomatoes, and how to grow those other varieties of crops are what's going to set you apart from these people, because it gives you options, and it gives you a way to grow your business, not to just be stuck in this one niche. It gives you the option to grow into whichever niche is going to be the most profitable for you and the most successful for you and your company. So thanks again, and I'll see you during the next session.